Hey guys, it's time for our second video for my channel. I thought this time we would flip the camera, seeing as I still have pandemic hair, and yeah, it's pretty hard to look at yourself that much. But let's start with yeah, Rascals. We're at 10%. We're looking to get to that 5,000 mark to be able to print the number of copies we want, and to make sure that we can afford to mail it out. Yeah, it's the basic book. There's the cover, great cover by Kurt Spurging, great guy, great artist. But the basic book, $5. Then we have a next tier, which is $5 and a sketch card of one of the 7 main characters. Kurt will do that. Also, oh sorry, this one is the sketch on the inside cover. That'll get you $10. All the books are going to be signed by us. Here we go. The next, $15. We'll ship it out to you. It's the signed book and inside sketch, plus you get a sketch card. It's a 4-inch by 6-inch sketch card of one of the 7 main characters. We have stickers, 2 types of stickers. That'll get you everything up to this point, plus stickers. We have the sketch bundle pack, which will give you all 7 characters hand-drawn by Kurt. That doesn't include the book, but it's a really good collectible item. This one for $50 Canadian is actually 3 of the books, 3 of the cards, and 3 of the sticker packs. It's good, if you know families with kids, or if you and your friends want to get in on it. This is a really good way. And yeah, this one here, it is 150 Canadian, but what this will get you is also a artwork by Kurt that you can frame on your wall. It's a handcrafted, watercolored piece that'll look good. Yeah, and that's it. Please go to Indiegogo. I'm gonna put the link in the description. The book looks fantastic. It's we've really tried to commit to quality, and it is done. We are hoping that what we can do is we can ship it August 2020, so that maybe there'll be a month or 2 wait for you to get the product. But we're not doing this to have some crazy lifestyle. We're doing this to get this comic out for people to read, because we love the Rascals. So anyway, today's subject for the video, that was a long introduction, but yeah, Rascals, Indiegogo. Let's check it out, guys. Today's subject is on influences, and how your influences kind of guide you later when you're doing your scripts. So I thought what we could do is I could start with mine, and I could kind of give you the kind of history of my influences and how they influence me, and then I can kind of point to my comic Ray Gun, and how it all kind of germinates and makes your stories. So of course you're going to start with Star Wars. Guys and women and people my age, this was a lot of our first big influence. Our big first foray into movies and science fiction was Star Wars, and it's something that I'm passing on to my kids now. I know there's a lot of controversy about the new direction of the 7, 8, 9. We might talk about that later if people want to hear my opinions. I don't think they do. It's been run to death, but the original ones, they were very influential on me. And Darth Vader was the first Star Wars figure I ever had. And as a small kid, 4 or 5 years old, it just burns into your mind, especially the image of Vader and the power and the Force, and it starts making you think, wow, maybe there's something else out there. And then running along with my movie influences, as I got a little older, a lot of kids I came up in a really good time when there was a lot of movies for kids. I mean, Flight of the Navigator, this is one of them. Another one would be Goonies. Another one would be Cloak and Dagger. Space Camp. There were so many movies for kids, and we would go see them. We would go to the theater. My sister and I would go, and this shaped kind of how I saw stories, especially with a kid protagonist. And then as I got older and things got edgier, I started getting into harder science fiction, and I would go and on my weekends I'd go and rent movies like this, Nemesis. Fantastic cyberpunk kind of movie. It's gory and there's swears and nudity, and for a young teen, this was wow. I was right into this, and also cyberpunk is a big influence on me. Yeah, so, and then you can't dismiss influences that you were kind of shown also. And when I was a kid, Dallas was a big thing in our family. It was a Friday night thing. You're not going out as a little kid, and there's usually only one TV, and so we got to know the Ewing clan. My sister and I would watch this with our parents religiously. And funny enough, it's interesting how that develops, because now one of my most influential TV shows and my favorite TV shows right now is Yellowstone, starring Kevin Costner. Unfortunately, I have to get the DVD sets because I live in Japan, and we don't get the Paramount network. But yeah, man, another story of a powerful family. Great characters. Taylor Sheridan is the writer-director. He did Sicario. But yeah, all of these influences, all of these things that are kind of sitting in the subconscious, and we'll talk about conscious and subconscious writing processes in another video. But I guess that leads to something else that's highly influential for storytelling for me, and that was Dungeons and Dragons. I was lucky enough to be friends with a family that had 3 kids that were playing first edition D&D, and as I think I was 6 or 7 years old when they let me play a game with them, and it absolutely shook my world. It absolutely made me think, wow, I can make a character. I can make a backstory. I can draw the character. I can develop things myself. I can make my own story happen. And at this time I was somewhat into comics. I was very much into the artwork, and later on that would develop into other role-playing games where I would regularly be the GM or DM, game master or dungeon master. And so now I was making whole worlds up. I was playing not only one character, I was playing all the characters besides they're called NPCs, non-player characters. And I was playing those characters, and I was developing their backstories and developing worlds for my characters, my player characters to live in. And my friends, quite enjoyed it when I would be the DM. Another game that came up, and this was kind of in the same time as Nemesis. We went on a big cyberpunk kick. Was Shadowrun, and this game is highly influential because it showed me that you can blend and mix. Sorry, I was painting models. You can blend and mix genres seamlessly, and Shadowrun is amazing. It basically takes the cyberpunk tropes and concepts and adds in the supernatural and fantasy elements. And you could be here we go. We have an orc ganger. You can be a dwarf eco shaman. I mean, we started playing this in first edition. I think this is fourth edition. And even though the rules were very complicated, and, I think he rolled sometimes 64 dice or something ridiculous, it was a big deal. And, and now that's continued. I mean, and I'm big into this now. Maybe sometime we'll talk about Warhammer, but that's not really too much story focus. But let's talk about comics, because the influences for comics for me, this Secret Wars was the first ever series that I collected from start to finish. It was the first time I realized that you could go to the same store every month and get the next part of the story. And it was a big one. People got hurt. It gave me my love of my very favorite, most favorite comic character, Doctor Doom. New characters were created, like Volcana and Titania. Odd relationships happened, like the Wasp and Magneto getting it on a rainy night. I mean, as a kid, it just blew me away, and it also showed me that this was planned, and stories could continue, much like the TV series that I liked. Much like Star Wars was episodic. So now I'm already in my mind putting two and two together as a kid that stories are in parts, and that you should always be wanting people to expect the next thing. Well, when I first got into script writing, I was lucky enough to meet somebody who was already in the industry, and we'll talk about that influence on me. But he recommended this book and said that, if you're going to read something, read Rick Veitch's The One. Another thing that I read was, Brat Pack, which was really, really scarring. But The One showed me a way of telling stories, and up to this point, I had gone through so much. I had gone through the independent phase in the 90s. I had gone through early Vertigo. I still have Hellblazer 1 to 7 original series. Cinder and Ash was something that I was reading in junior high school that just blew me away. And when I read this, it kind of brought me back to that indie feel. And I always have loved black and white comics. And the fact that I could see this and I was starting to make comics, first of all, it changed my mind about stories you could tell, and how graphic they could be. I mean, I had seen stuff up to this point, but this was not only a good story, it was kind of shocking. And because that shocked me, I started kind of looking at influences from other countries. I'm not a big manga guy, which is crazy because I live in Japan, but I started getting into European comics, and this is a reprint, Humanoids in DC. But I started getting into comics that were, written by Eastern Europeans, and started seeing how their stories were told. Mobius and things like that. Ukrainian, Igor Baranko. Igor Corday is a huge influence on me, and we'll talk about him at some point. But Metal Hurlant was something that I started experimenting with and learning other ways of telling stories, and basically learning that a story that ends is usually the best story. But it's funny how things come full circle, because that led me back into Western stories told well, and I think probably a great example of that is Jonathan Hickman's Manhattan Projects, which is taking basically historical fiction, turning it on its head, and making high fidelity science fiction. And this is absolutely fantastic. And Jonathan Hickman is very influential. I'm talking about other mediums as influences today, but if maybe in another video we'll talk about writers that are big influences. And for modern writers, what I consider modern writers, Jonathan Hickman is one of the best. Rick Remender is another one that I really, really, really love. And maybe we'll cover that. But that's my journey through movies, games, comics. And it's interesting, what comes out of that is my first book, Raygun. And, Raygun is about a 10-year-old boy named Matthew Baker who discovers Nikola Tesla's death ray and is then pursued by the government while trying to reform bonds with his father. And this book, again, if we look, we're seeing all of my influences again. We're seeing we're seeing the Star Wars science fiction, high fidelity, high, science fiction. We're seeing the you can go back and take things from history and use them. And again, just to let you guys know, Raygun is published by Arcana Studios. You can go to arcana.com to pick it up. You can also pick it up on Comixology. Alonzo Molina did much of the artwork. We had some inks and lettering work done by Paulo. Two amazing artists. But this is what comes from inundating yourself and going down rabbit holes like this. So I guess what I'm trying to say, and what I'm going to wrap up with, is follow your own rabbit holes. If you really love cyberpunk, then follow it down, to its conclusion. Really look into it. If you really love fantasy, follow that into its historical relevance and its influences. And, you never want to copy, but you can make something completely original that you love, that, again, we're looking at what I loved as a kid, right? It's here. I'm trying to make this for kids my age, or for that were my age, sorry, to experience just like I did, right? I'm trying to give them the same experiences in my way, using my voice. And so, commit to what you love and follow it down as deep as you can go. And when you write your own stories, recognize your influences, don't copy them, but appreciate them. And, go back, go watch another episode of Dallas from 1970 something and see. And you might just go, wow, man, yeah, that's why I think like this. This is why I love this. And I hope you love your things too. And I hope, some of this maybe has resonated with you about influences and years and years. We're talking 30-something years of, just consuming entertainment. And hopefully you can make your own thing that I can see. So that's it. Until next time, guys, have a good one.